All right, here we are. The Yanks split the Subway Series. Took 1 out of 2, but they have won 4 out of 5. And they go into the day off today, which I am recording this on the day off, Thursday, July 27th. Man, time really does fly, like when you get older. I know people say that, but Jesus Christ, summer's, 1 month remaining. Let's talk Yankees. Episode 542 of the show. Welcome to BD4. 542? Yeah, 542. Let's get to it. Cue the intro. Welcome to BD4, an RJ Carbone podcast. BD4, where there is no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. BD4 is a 5-star show on Apple Podcasts, also available in video format on YouTube and Spotify. So thanks for stopping by, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Champion of the world, turning, looking, see ya!
Anthony for 3, bang! That one goes down, and the game is tied! Time!
Penetrates, creates, and showing some dexterity as well with the left hand.
Yankees win!
All right. Let's do it. Episode 542. The Yankees take the split. Subway split against the Mets. Listen, man, before we even get into the show, this split series thing, this 2-game set for the Subway series makes no sense. I mean, if you want to bring juice back to the Yankee-Met rivalry, and yes, it's a rivalry, how are you doing that with these 2-and-done sets? Like, you got to bring back the 4-game Subway Series to me. This 2-game set, the shit just doesn't feel the same. It's too quick. It's not even a series. There's no juice to it. It feels weird. 4 games was awesome. 4 games when they did that a few years ago. It was a whole week, right? Where you wake up and you look forward to this grind, this battle of a series, right? 36 innings of baseball. And it was cool because you had 2 in the Bronx and then you went to 2 in Queens, back to back. But they scrapped that. They got rid of that really quick for some reason. But they didn't go to the 2 right away. Then they went to like the 3-game set, the normal traditional 3-game series. And I didn't mind that. I just don't like the 2. 2 is like, why would you do 2 games for Yankees Mets of all series? That bothers me. That's something I've always been annoyed with ever since they changed it to 2. It just does not feel fun. It's rushed. So let's talk about it though. Let's not waste time. The Yankees take the Subway Series this week. Tuesday, Wednesday. They lost the first game, won the second game. Episode 542 of the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. Welcome to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA, Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion. Big card coming up this weekend for the UFC. I can't wait for that. Let's get into the series, not waste time. This is going to be, hopefully, I say that a lot, a quick episode. But the first game of the series, the Yankees lose to the Mets 9-3 on Tuesday. Domingo Germán goes up against Justin Verlander and gets shelled. Top of the first inning, the Mets score right away. Got the bloop single with 2 outs by Peter. Fucking hate that guy. 1-0 Mets. Top of the second, Domingo strikes out the side. It was actually 4 consecutive strikeouts dating back to the end of the first inning. He looked really dominant, but that was it for him because top of the third comes and the wheels fall off. The Mets score 3 runs. Yankees, you have infielders playing outfield. That rewards us once again. And then Domingo leaves a cement mixer 0-2 changeup smack in the middle of the zone to Peter for a 3-run home run, and it's 4-0. Top of the 6th, the Mets still keep hitting on Domingo. They score 3 more. He gives Alonso another home run with this time a 92-mile-an-hour meatball that caught way too much of the plate. And then he leaves a spinner to that slug, that fat slug, Vogelback, for back-to-back jacks, and all of a sudden the Mets are up 6-0. The game was over. Top of the 7th, they get another. You had Ramirez in the game for Herman. At that point, Volpe makes the throwing error to first base. Ramirez ends up giving up the RBI base hit to McNeil. That was like the 3rd bloop hit of the game that scored a run. 7-0 Mets. Bottom of the 7th, the Yankees score a couple of garbage time runs. The Mets bullpen is in. You had the Volpe RBI, was it an RBI double against the right field wall versus Raley. Stanton then with the bases loaded. A lot of warning track outs this year for Stanton. Gets the sac fly against Leon. 7-2 Mets. Top of the 8th, Nick Ramirez is still in there. He completes his 2nd inning of work. 2 innings, 1 run, 3 hits. Bottom of the 8th, the Yankees score an additional fake run. Bases loaded for Ben Rortvedt. He bangs into a fielder's choice. Run comes across. It was interesting to see the Yankees pinch hit with Rortvedt to have the lefty. But then Buck Showalter counters that by going to the righty Hartwig, or pulling the righty Hartwig, but then going with the righty David Robertson. I don't know what they have in their pen, but that was an interesting move. Anyways, it was 7-3 Mets after that. Rortvedt ground ball. Top of the 9th, the Mets get 2 more. Marinaccio's in. He does Marinaccio things. He's been awful for the Yankees. Strikeout, walk, single, double, 2 runs come across, 9-3. Abreu's in after that. He's a mess. He's walking batters, hitting guys, but he gets out of it. Bottom of the 9th, the Yanks don't do anything, and they lose 9-3. 3 runs on 5 hits, 1 extra base hit, 8 walks, 6, or I should say 8 strikeouts, and then 0 for 6 in scoring position. Glaber, Bader, Billy McKinney, Connor Falefa, and Anthony Volpe. The lone Yankees with a hit. Volpe the double, and he also walked. Glaber walked. Stanton had 2 walks. LeMahieu had 3 walks. Stanton, Volpe, and Rortvedt each with an RBI. Verlander, 6 scoreless innings to lower his ERA in the year to 3.24. So for a guy who's not the same, he's still pitching pretty damn well. He's been hot lately. And he lowered his Yankees ERA to probably like negative something, because this team just, no matter how old he gets, will never be able to solve Verlander. Domingo Germán, 6 innings, 6 runs, 7 hits, 3 doubles, 3 home runs. Okay, a walk and 9 strikeouts gets the loss. I mean, he was just absolutely wretched. He was hanging everything. He had nothing, and that's been the usual with him for a little bit, unfortunately now. He had some swing and miss stuff, right? He had 9 Ks, but also he had his home run derby pitches going. He was leaving pitches that caught too much of the plate very often. He hasn't been really good since the perfect game. Actually, even surrounding that perfect game, a couple starts before that weren't good. In his last 7 starts, Domingo Germán carries a 7.12 ERA. That is just wretched. And that was the first game of the set on Tuesday. The Yankees lose. So there was nothing. That game felt like crap. I'm not going to say it was the worst loss of the season, because I feel like we say that after every loss, rightly so. But that one just felt like garbage. It really pissed me off, because I hate the Mets. But that was the first game of the series. Let's talk about the second game of the series, which took place yesterday on Wednesday. The Yankees beat the Mets 3-1. Carlos Rodon going up against Jose Quintana. Bottom of the first, the Yankees strand a small village. They get the first 2 guys on with no outs. Back-to-back singles from IKF and Glaber. But then it's Stanton striking out on a fastball up, and then Rizzo hits into the double play. Bottom of the second, they end up plating 2 runs, the Yankees. Peralta hits into a fielder's choice. That scores LeMahieu. IKF sac fly scores Bader. I mean, we can call it a sac fly, but that was the Bader tag that he probably shouldn't have went on. But we're the Yankees, and the Yankees are reckless on the bases. And he makes a great slide, and he's in there. So it was 2-0 Yankees after 2. Top of the third, the Mets do get 1. Brandon Nimmo sac fly off of Rodon. It's 2-1. Bottom of the fourth, the Yanks get another. And this would be all the scoring for the game when Anthony Volpe singles the opposite way again to make it 3-1. Bottom of the fifth, the Yankees almost get 1. Glaber drives one to right field, but he gets robbed of a home run by Jeff McNeil. Top of the sixth, the Yanks make a pitching change. Rodon is pulled after collecting 2 outs and then letting up the base hit. From there, King comes in. He gets Alvarez to pop it up, and then he was used for just those 3 pitches, and that was it. Top of the seventh, it was Peralta who comes in. Perfect inning with 2 strikeouts. Canely, perfect inning with a strikeout in the top of the 8th. And then the 9th, Clay Holmes comes in. He closes it, goes 1-2-3, gets a strikeout, and the Yankees win 3-1. So 3 runs on 6 hits, 1 extra base hit, 5 walks for the Yankees in this game, and 5 strikeouts only, which was good, but they were also 1 for 11 in scoring position after going 0-6, so that's nice. Bader had 3 hits, 3 for 4 with a double. LeMahieu 3 more walks. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa 1 for 2, an RBI, a walk. Glaber 1 for 4, 15-game hit streak now. Volpe was 1 for 2, an RBI, a walk. Peraza, an RBI, played some second base in this game. He did make an error, but yeah, Yankees against Quintana, 2 runs in 6 innings. 3 runs, 2 of them earned on him in 6 innings. But the amount of missed opportunities is just so repulsive at this point. 1 for 11 with runners in scoring position. The first inning, they had first and third with nobody out. Nobody scores. Even the second inning with the bases loaded and no outs, you score 2, but it's not even off hits. It's really like the Yankees are physically unable to produce big hits with runners in scoring positions. Like doubles in the gap, 3-run home runs, things like that, they just don't exist with this team. It's very frustrating. It's amazing how 1 for 11s keep piling up. It's like it gets worse and worse. And it's been so bad dating back to fucking 2018, I would say. They've been so putrid with their situational at-bats. Rodon, 5 2/3 innings, 1 run, more on him when we return from break in a few minutes. So let's just run through it. Let's get to Carlos Rodon as soon as we return. Be right back here on BD4.
We appreciate you sticking around and listening so far. When you have a chance, be sure to open YouTube to subscribe, like, and comment. And if you're already watching on YouTube, be sure to head over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star review. We appreciate your feedback and are always looking to improve. Now, with that all said, let's get you back to the show.
All right. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. Episode 542 of the podcast. It was a good outing for Carlos Rodon. So with that said, we're going to give him some respect. We're going to tip our caps to Carlos Rodon for having a good start. 5 2/3 innings, 1 run, 4 strikeouts, 3 walks, 4 hits, no home runs, 3 singles and a double, 93 pitches, 61 strikes, and he got the win in Game 2 against the Mets. I still need to see more. You know, he still seems to be laboring a lot. There's a lot of traffic on the bases. The fastball command wasn't great. He was missing high a lot with the fastball. Which I guess is where you want to miss with that pitch. But, you know, the strikeouts aren't there yet. The swing and misses aren't there yet. There's a lot of contact, hard contact, too. I think there were 10 hard hit balls in this one against Rodon. A lot of warning track balls in there. The first pitch to Peter that traveled to left field scared you a little bit. But the end results were there in this one. 1 run in 5 2/3 innings. And the stuff looked very sharp. The fastball velocity was there. It was around 97 a few times, and it had a lot of life to it. Some late movement, great spin. He was 70% four-seam in this game. Through the slider, it had a ton of bite. It was touching that, right-handed hitter's batting box often. And he was doing that to both lefties and righties going in that same spot. And he threw 70% four-seam, 29% slider. He mixed in one curveball in the game. And I didn't realize he was a two-pitch pitcher. It kind of scares me a little bit, which, Garrett Cole's an ace. He's got like 5 pitches, but I wish he had a better pitch mix, Rodon. He's been elite the last 2 seasons, so I guess it doesn't matter, but I think it concerns me because we've heard about the chronic back issue. So if that back starts barking again and somewhere down the line in this contract he starts losing heat on that fastball, it's a little dangerous to just, be a two-pitch pitcher. So maybe he works with Matt Blake or Andy Pettitte now, right? Adds a cutter. I know Blake has brought in the changeup, right? The Yankees like changeups. They get their guys throwing that pitch. I don't know, but I'm going to give him time, man. The dude just got back from missing the first 3 months of the season, plus spring training. So I'm hoping this is a step in the right direction and he finds his footing soon. Because we can't afford to wait too long. But this was a good outing. Let's not make it like it wasn't. He was very good. And the Yankees needed this. He needed this. Because Lord knows that if Carlos Rodon went out there and he didn't pitch well at Yankee Stadium last night, Yankees fans would have did their thing on him. Let's just say that. Because of the whole thing that happened last week. And we didn't do an episode for that, was it the Angel series? Whatever series it was. Because, that was a joke. It was a mess. The whole gesturing to the fans. And so if he would have run out there and if he were to tank, Yankees fans, it would have to take a little bit for Rodon to get back on their good side. But I think this was a good outing for him. I just wish he went 6 strong. Boone didn't let him 6. I know he was working a little bit. You did have a lefty coming up for Peralta to face. But again, it's Carlos Rodon. He's an ace quality pitcher. But I like him. I want to love him. He's got that dog energy people talk about. He wants to compete. He looks determined when he's out there. He's got the whole chest thing going like Voit did. You saw him just, he gets that strikeout on Peter. Throws him 3 straight slide balls and fucking pumped up after that, cursing and shit. I didn't like the apology to Jeff McNeil after he plunked him, though. But, no, I'm going to like him. I think Yankees fans are going to like this dude a lot. As soon as he strings together a few dominant outings, he'll be a jersey seller. He'll definitely be somebody that makes the Yankees money. So this is Rodon's first time getting the tip of the cap. So good to him. Props to him. Gets his first win of the season. And, leads me to my next question, because this is something I've been thinking about. A lot of Yankees fans have been thinking about. What's this rotation going to look like when Nestor Cortes returns in a week or two? Severino hasn't been good. Better lately. I don't think the Yankees plan on touching him, especially with the contract situation. I think he's just going to finish out his tenure year. I think he's just going to finish out his tenure here. I'm trying to rush through this podcast, if you can't tell by now, because I've got work in a few. But I don't think he's going to the pen. I think he's finishing his Yankees career as a starter. Clark Schmidt has been fine. I don't think you touch him. He's been good. Maybe they move him because of the innings workload. He's going to be approaching a career high soon. If not already. He might even have already reached that, I think. But I think, Domingo Germán, who hasn't been good at all for a bit now, outside the perfecto, plus he's the scumbag, he should be the one to get booted from the rotation. I think that's the way to go. Cortes returns, Domingo to the pen. Replace a righty for a lefty as well. The Loaisiga is also returning too, so that means 2 guys from the pen will have to screw off when everyone's healthy. Ramirez is probably one guy. Maybe Marinaccio, dare I say, because he's not been the same pitcher this year. We've talked about his struggles. He's got an 8 ERA this month. So, yeah, it could be. Speaking of the bullpen, we are going to hand out an award, though. And we're going to do that when we return. We'll tip our cap to a Yankee reliever from this series as soon as we get back from break. Stay with us here on BD4.
You can also find us on social media. If you'd like, you can follow BD4 on Facebook, and we're at BD4Pod on both Instagram and Twitter. We appreciate you helping us grow more and more every day. Let's get back to it.
Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, RJ Carbone, and you are listening to episode 542 of the podcast. Thanks for tuning in to BD4. Let's hand out an award. Let's tip our cap to Wandy Peralta. He pitched an inning in the second game of the series. A perfect inning. 2 strikeouts, 15 pitches, 9 strikes. Got the hold. And Wandy Peralta's been good, man. He's, always been flying under the radar, but he's always been so consistent for this team. Just, that's the word to describe him. Consistent, period. Ever since he put on the Yankee uniform, he's just gotten the job done. Not flashy, not loud, just comes in, pitches, shuts up, and does his job. And that's kind of the MO of the bullpen, right? But yeah, he's kind of fun to watch. He's got a nice slider. He's got an interesting changeup, Puts some traffic on the bases at times, but he usually gets the job done. So Wandy Peralta, I'm tipping my cap to you this series, and that is his 4th time getting that respect this season. So props to him, Wandy Peralta. And the bats this series, well, they weren't anything special. Let me get this out of the way. If you're watching the YouTube edit, sorry for that. 6 runs on 11 hits in total. 2 extra base hits, a 190 average, 59 with runners in scoring position. 0-59. Jesus Christ. 13 walks, 13 strikeouts. Pitching-wise, 4.5 ERA this series, 21 strikeouts, 6 walks issued, 232 opponent average, 211 opponent average with runners in scoring position, and a -4 run differential for the Yankees. I don't know what to take from that other than it's a 2-game series. You can't really take too much, but it's more the same all year. The Yankee bats just don't hit with runners in scoring position. They just don't pick up a ton of hits in general. They don't score a ton of runs this year. I don't know. If you want to look at some positives, you got guys starting to hit. Glaber continues to hit. He's now on this torrid 15-game hit streak. He just seems very relaxed up there, and he's having a good season. Seems like he's safe. You haven't heard any rumblings about him being dealt. Volpe, the last 5 games, is kind of starting to hit a little bit. 364 average in the last 5 games. Got a 462 OBP. He had an RBI in each game this series. He's going the other way again. That inside-out approach, you like to see that. Still seeing him kind of roll over those curveballs on the outside part of the plate, though. But we'll see, right? He really does, at this point, need an extended stretch where he's hitting. Like, he needs to end the season on a very hot month or 2 months of solid hitting. Because I don't want to go into next season with questions on if our shortstop, our starting shortstop, the guy of the future, is going to be reliable enough, right? I need to see something to where I'm comfortable going into next year with Anthony Volpe. So hopefully he can start doing something soon. And just anything more than just hitting for a week or two, which is, he's found some hot streaks here and there, the chicken parm being the latest one. That whole thing was played out. But yeah, he's been hitting lately. That's good. LeMahieu has been hitting since the All-Star break. 314 average since then, 455 OBP, only a 16% K rate since then. That's in 11 games. He's getting on base a ton. He walked 6 times this series. So he had a few quick count walks, and he also had the deep count walk, 8 or 9 pitches, I believe, in the first game against Verlander. He's making more contact, a lot more line drives. He's going the other way more. Maybe it's got something to do with Sean Casey. I wonder. But again, like I said last episode, I just think, and not to be rude, but it's the best expression I can think of, I think it's one of those cases where a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while, right? A broken clock is right twice a day. It could just be a random hot streak. But he's hitting, and we're going to give him that credit for now. IKF is hitting. He was 2 for 3 with an RBI and a walk this series. He continues to just do a solid job in his role. I just saw a stat on Twitter. I don't have it with me, but since Judge went down, IKF is hitting well over 300. He's like 26 for something, they said. Yes, the defense in the outfield has been shoddy, as expected, but he's done a nice job at the plate. He really has thrived in his role this year for the Yankees. Thrive might be a little too complimentary, but he's done well. Harrison Bader, he's hitting. And we're actually going to talk a little bit about Bader when we return from break, because we're going to hand out him. We're going to tip our caps to him and give him the final award. Be right back. Stay with us here on BD4.
If you have time in the day, or maybe just prefer old-fashioned reading over listening, then you can always follow along and subscribe to BD4 Blog by going to BD4blog.com. We're not on there as often, but when we do post, it's just as entertaining, opinionated, and passionate as we are on this podcast. Thank you so much. And let's keep on with the show.
Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, RJ Carbo, and let's hand out an award to Harrison Bader. Tipping our cap to Bader in the lineup. 4 hits this series, a .500 average, a double. Struck out once, 3 runs scored, 5 total bases, and an 1125 OPS. Yeah, man, he's hitting. He's also on a 4-game hit streak where he's 6 for 12. That's 500 right there. He's been good. He seems to have his streaks where he's really hot, and then he goes back to being what he's going to be most of the time, which is a light hitter. But you'll take it as long as he's healthy and continues to play great defense. He does have to start communicating a little bit better with his outfield. As the center fielder out there, you're the guy in charge. You're the captain of that outfield. And there's been multiple times now this season where, whether it's been with IKF, Jake Bowers, Billy McKinney now, where he's running into them or almost running into them on a fly ball. He's got to call them off. He's got to communicate better with them. We're seeing a little more often than we should. But Bader's hitting, and more times than not, he's been great in center field. And this is the 5th time already, and he's not even played a lot this year. But it's already the 5th time where he's getting our respects, and we're tipping our caps to him. So props to Bader. The guys who aren't hitting, well, the 2 vets that you need to hit, they're still not hitting. Rizzo and Stanton, those 2 were a combined 0 for 15 this series. I'm kind of getting to a point. I just don't think either of them are the same players that they used to be. We can sit here and hope and pray and beg that they finally find a rhythm. But now we're sitting here and looking up, and it's almost the second to last month of the season now. Right? A couple of days, it's going to be August 1st. And they're still not in rhythm. So I just think it is what it is. I just think they're both shell of themselves. Stanton, the whole coming off the DL slow thing, it's kind of over. It's been a little bit since he's been back. I hope we're still not doing that. The guy batted .211 last year, and that was across 110 games. And he's batting .200 this year in 52 games. So that right there, you combine those 2, that's exactly 1 full season where he's not hitting. He looks slow, very stiff. He can't run, he can't field, he can't move well laterally. And he just has not found a hot streak once since he's returned. I think he's done. Or I shouldn't say done, because he's still a guy with great power. He's got the productivity is there when you look at the run production. The RBIs, the home runs, they're there. The doubles, I just think he's the shell of himself. I don't know that he's a middle-of-the-order bat anymore. He's a guy with power who's going to run into a home run here and there, kind of like Donaldson. I mean, it's a harsh comparison at this point, but it's kind of, you think about it, it's not that different. I'm not expecting the Yankees to do this, and I get why they're not, but at some point I think they're going to have to realize Stanton might not be a 4-hole hitter anymore. Maybe you should start batting him 5-6 more often. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm totally off here, and when Aaron Judge returns this weekend, Stanton starts to hit again. But I think it's reasonable, at the very least, to have the conversation about Giancarlo Stanton's prime being over. And then with Rizzo, I mean, people flipped out because he had a great game against the Double-A Kansas City Royals. And he goes out there in this series, and it's just the same. It's more of the same. I'm noticing a ton of like soft fly balls to right field that just float. I don't know. He's not really lining the ball anymore. And listen, this is a guy that, at the end of the day, he did bat .220 last year. But I think what's shocking everybody is the lack of power. He's on pace, if he stays healthy, to barely touch 20 home runs and 70 RBIs. That's not Anthony Rizzo. But he's older. He's 34 years old in 2 weeks. He had the back problem this year. He might still be dealing with the effects from the neck thing this year against San Diego. This could very well, like Stanton, just be the end of Anthony Rizzo's elite days. Maybe he needs his guy Aaron Judge back because, he does bat right next to him. That could help. And, we talk about the San Diego injury. That was also in line with the same time Judge went down. Because I think that was right next to the Dodgers series. Maybe. I wasn't too far off it. So maybe that's what he needs. I don't know. But it's kind of why I want to get younger, man. Right? This is why I like youth. It's why I want Bellinger. Not just for this season, but to see, sure you want to see if you can make a run this year, see what you have. But I want to see if they can grab Bellinger and lock him up on the roster for years to come. Because he can play first base. Or he can play outfield. And he can do them both pretty well. He rates out very well defensively. He just turned 28 years old too. So he's still a young player. But yeah, this is kind of why I'm an advocate for the inevitable at some point retool, right? The overhaul. Play your prospects, right? You gave Volpe the job. Great. You finally called up Peralta, but you already sat him twice. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if he's the one who gets demoted when Judge returns. But, see what Dominguez can do for you. Is he a September call-up? Probably not, but he should be on the team next year. Austin Wells at some point. Maybe he becomes a September call-up. That's a possibility with the catching situation. But I want him starting catching next year. Even Ben Rorfed, he's here. Play the damn kid. We know what we have in Higashioka, so you're not unlocking anything in him. So just play Ben Rorfed. Everson Pereira, we're hearing a lot about this kid more and more lately. He's starting to hit. Maybe we hear from him in September. I want to see some of the youth. But we have a very massive, significant, whatever you want to call it, 2-week stretch here coming up. A lot of big things on the horizon. Aaron Judge is back Friday. He got 3 at Camden Yards against Baltimore. The trade deadline's Tuesday. That's in the midst of a 3-game set against Tampa Bay. Then you go to, I think it's a home series. But you got 4 games against Houston. So, Baltimore, Tampa, Houston. All lined up for you. At worst, the Yankees, especially if they get Judge back Friday, should be aiming for 7 or 8 wins. That sounds ridiculously tough, difficult, I know. But is this not a team that's in a situation right now where they're trying to make the playoffs? Those 3 ball clubs that they have lined up, they're all ahead of the Yankees in this race. Division, Wild Card 1, wild card 2. It goes Baltimore, Tampa, Houston, in that order. So, not to mention, there are still teams out of a playoff spot still ahead of the Yankees in Toronto and Boston. So, yeah, I'm sorry. It sounds harsh, but the Yankees have some winning to do. You can beat the A's. You can beat the Royals. You can handle the Mets. But these are going to be real baseball teams. There's no excuse now. You need to start gaining ground in the playoff race. So 7 or 8 games out of these next 10 are going to have to be a must. Friday is going to have to be a must. If Judge plays, that's going to have to be your lock. Because it's Garrett Cole plus Judge in the same game. If you can't take advantage of that, there's no hope for you. It's good night, Yankees. That needs to be a lock of a win. The Yankees with Judge are a 600 team. Without Judge, they played sub 500 ball. So the expectations will be back. No more of this surviving and accepting survival. They need to start winning. Not surviving. Winning. The whole thing has been odd, though, man. This whole thing with Judge. I was listening to John Boy talk about it on his podcast last night. Just like reviewing it, and I'm like, yeah, it's a little weird. Like, apparently Jazz Chisholm had a very similar injury. Maybe the same exact thing, but the Marlins weren't giving the media like the Yankee treatment. He returned after 40 days. Judge is going to be back, I think, 45 days if he's back on Friday, like they say. But the Marlins said straight up that it's turf toe from the beginning. They told you he'd be out 4 to 6 weeks from the beginning. And it was a very consistent timeline with no surprise updates. The Yankees never used the term turf toe. They said slight tear. Then weeks later, they changed it to major tear, more ligaments torn. Then they didn't know. There was no timeline the entire time. So I don't know what the whole deal was. There was either a disconnect between Judge and the Yankees. The Yankees maybe just wanted to sell tickets, or maybe Judge wanted to play and the Yankees didn't want to risk it because of the new contract and all. It could have been a combination of all of that. But yeah, I'm just happy that he's finally back. Knock on wood. Obviously, he's not going to be at full health. I would say 70% if we're lucky. But I think he'll be fine. I want to think he'll be okay. I know there's a lot of torque on that foot, especially as a gigantic human. But I think he'll hit. My concern is the defense, the range he'll cover. The lateral movement might not be great. Might have some trouble covering ground. Fortunately, he's in right field, but it might also affect his base running too. But he's here to hit bombs. If he hits bombs, you don't have to worry about any of that. That's what he was paid to do. I'm sure he'll be platooning a lot too with Stanton. DH right field, both of them will be probably getting 50-50 time. Stanton's going to see the outfield. So Judge is going to get his share of rest days, I'm sure. But I do hope the Yankees have some awareness that they're going to need him out there more often. But yeah. So you have Judge back. You got the trade deadline coming up, and that's going to be an interesting conversation in the next couple of days. Something might happen tonight. It might happen as I'm recording right now because it's an off day, and Cashman sometimes likes to do a deal a couple of days beforehand. So we'll talk a little bit more about the trade deadline when we return from break. Stay with us here on episode 542 of BD4. We'll be right back.
Studio 69 Productions is a production company that allows content creators of all genres to market their podcast or whatever project they're working on. It's an online platform that will promote your content no problem. All you have to do is get in touch with film director and podcast producer Leo Rodriguez from Say No More Podcast, and you're good to go. You can find him on Instagram at Studio69NJ, Studio 69 Productions, where dreams are heard and born.
Welcome back to the show. I am your host, RJ Carbone. Real briefly, the trade deadline. Yeah, that's part of this next 2 weeks. Big next 2 weeks that we mentioned. I promise I didn't just do cocaine. I'm like about to sneeze. But yeah, with Judge back now and the Yankees still alive in the postseason race, it's obvious that they're going to buy. That's not, the whole buy or sell thing is over. It was never a thing, but it's just become, to what degree will they buy? Right? They're not going to sell. I've been consistent to the last few weeks in saying that if you do buy, it is a must, that you grab 2 impact bats, and one of them has to be named Cody Bellinger. If you let that guy go anywhere else, and you're telling me you're buying at the deadline, I don't even want to know who you get. Because there's no one else that would give me the slightest bit of hope as the main piece to this year's deadline. Not named Juan Soto, of course. Ohtani, he's off the market, by the way. It's got to be Bellinger plus. It's got to be Bellinger. Did I mention before that I have some slight concerns about Bellinger? Sure. That swing, right? The resume, the Yankee Stadium habits, invested fan base. You don't want it to become a Gallo 2.0 thing. But I think Sean Casey could be a good asset for Cody Bellinger. And I'm enjoying the year Cody Bellinger's having. You need an outfielder, all right? You need your lefty bat. You need your 300 hitter who puts the ball in play. And guess what? For as much as I criticize Bellinger in his recent seasons, he's having one of those elite hitting seasons right now. You need some youth on this team, and this is a guy who you could possibly extend in the winter if he opts out. You pair Bellinger with a Judge, and I can see a reality where the Yankees find their way to 90 wins in a wild card spot. It might not happen, but it wouldn't totally shock me if it did. So, bottom line, if you're going for it, then go for it. Because nobody else is getting you there. Not Randall Grichuk. Not a Dylan Carson or this fucking guy McMahon from Colorado. Not as the main course. You want to grab those guys as a side order? Sure, go ahead. Although 2 of those guys are outfielders. But if you're asking me what my ideal infield, outfield looks like next Wednesday, August 2nd, if I go around the diamond, I want catching. You're going to have the Higgy-Rortvedt duo. Rizzo at first. I want Torres at second. Volpe at short. Candelario, I want him at third base. Bellinger, I want him in left field. Then you got Bader in center. And then Judge and Stanton right field DH. So that's the plan to me for a bit has been Bellinger plus a third baseman, preferably Candelario. If you get McMahon, I wouldn't be pissed. But Bellinger's got to be the main piece. So if you have to move a guy like Oswald Peraza in the deal, do it. Absolutely. The Yankees are already terrible with player development, so I almost want Peraza in a deal so they don't tank his value for the future. Because with the way they've been dealing with him has already been disrespectful enough. Unwarranted demotions, promotions but not playing enough anyway, etc. You already know they're going to ruin him like they do a lot of guys, Andujar, etc. And from what I'm hearing, to acquire these guys, it might not require a ton of top-notch prospects because he's a rental. Austin Wells, Trey Sweeney, Everson Pereira, Peraza, Jones, Dominguez. I don't think Jones or Dominguez are going to be anywhere in these deals. But the other 4 guys, Wells, Sweeney, Pereira, Peraza, maybe 1, 2 tops will be in these deals, is what my prediction is. I would say you're going to hear maybe 1 or 2 of those guys tops. And then you hear like Drew Thorpe is in a deal, or a Will Warren, or a Clayton Beater, one of those guys. But yeah, that's my brief trade deadline thing. We'll stop there. We've talked a lot about that. At this point, we just got to see what happens. And the next time we have an episode, we'll be talking about who the Yankees acquired. So that should be fun. We're gonna wrap this up. Let's get to our question of the day and wrap this episode up. Let's get to it right now. All right. So, for this episode 542 of the podcast, I am asking you. I don't know if we've asked this before. We might have. But which Yankees legend was the first rookie to play in the MLB All-Star Game? Which Yankees legend was the first rookie to play in the MLB All-Star Game? You know the deal. You know how this works. Guys, episode 542 is in the books. I'm your host, RJ. I appreciate you stopping by. This episode was about 45 minutes, so that was perfect timing. Yep, the Yanks split against the Mets. Didn't talk a ton about that, but 2-game series. Who cares? Fuck the Mets. Fuck Peter. Let's go Yankees, and I'll see you in the next show. All right, guys. Thank you. Later. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.
Hey there! If you stayed the entire way through, we thank you immensely for it. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and that you come back for the next episode real soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, download these episodes, and share them with your friends as well. BD4 is a 5-star podcast simply because of you, and we'd like to keep it that way. Have a wonderful day. Go Yankees and go Knicks!